Howdy, 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 everybody. We got a special program here for you today on the Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake. We got a little bit of a miscommunication with Square over how exactly things were going, and unfortunately, the game unlocks around noon, and it was the same for us too, so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about how much... or what we're thinking about doing, the things we're going to be looking for, and a little bit of history with Dragon Quest while we wait for download in the background. So for now, I'll give it over to SUMDeaner and Hakticals to discuss Dragon Quest III while I sit here and hope it downloads very quickly.
It does seem to be downloading, so we should be good shortly.
Oh, yours is.
So hello everyone, I'm Haktical. I run Dragon Quest III as well as a bunch of other Dragon Quest games. Have a lot of experience with the series, love to play it, and I'm definitely excited for this little showcase here and for this new version.
Yeah, and I'm SUMDeaner. If you don't already know me, yes, I also love to speedrun Dragon Quest games and part of the Dragon Quest speedrunning community, especially Dragon Quest III. Anybody who tuned into RPG Limit Break this year saw us, here we go, I can't install it, saw us together along with Keishura at the actual live event this year. And we're both really excited for this new version of Dragon Quest III. For starters, one of the things I definitely want to start paying close attention to early on are some of the differences between the different versions. For anyone not familiar, there are several different iterations of Dragon Quest III. In this newest version, I'm interested to see what kinds of returning things we'll see, what kind of things seem familiar, and what kind of things are new, extra, that seem a little bit different. Is there anything one thing in particular, Haktical, that you're looking forward to? Maybe that's your returning thing that you'd be interested in seeing?
Yeah, there's a few things. I don't know that I've got one in particular. I mean, obviously, there's been a few different versions of Dragon Quest III over the years, right? There's been the NES version, there's been the Super Famicom and Game Boy remakes, all that. And they've got different mechanics. So like Super Famicom has things like the personality system, which influences your stat growth. Will that be making a return in this version? It has some mini games like Pachisi. It has some post-game content. So what's going to be available for all of that? Will those version exclusive things be in this version? Because some of them have been taken out of other versions of the game that came out later. So,
yeah. I think number one for me is Sugoroku. I would love to see some Pachisi or other fun mini games like that. It was I played a ton of the Game Boy Color version of Dragon Quest III, Dragon Warrior 3, when I was younger. So love me some Pachisi. Would love to see that. And I was always a big fan of the personality system as well. Both kind of things that you mentioned. As a speedrunner, as a casual player, I don't think that the personality system has a great influence on the game. But as a speedrunning mechanic, it was actually pretty fascinating to start diving into some of those things and understanding some of those things. So
I hope if they bring back the personality system that they include some kind of interface for telling you what your personality does. That's the biggest issue casually is, you don't really get a description of what your personality, how it changes your character.
Right.
And,
I think that's a good point.
And I think that's one of the things that I'm going to be looking for at the start of the game, even beyond game mechanics or visuals or anything like that, is just how does the game look and feel to play? What do the menus look like? Are they quick? Are they responsive? Does it present the information in a readable way? It's an RPG that's got some level of complexity to it. And one of the great things about speedrunning the Super Famicom version that we both run is that it's super quick, it's super responsive, the menus feel great. And I really hope that while I expect there to be some modernization to it, I hope that the menus feel really fun to play because it's a game first. Yeah.
For anyone who isn't familiar, the Super Famicom version of Dragon Quest III has a very long, very storied, very competitive speedrun history, especially in Japan. And it's the version that we speedrun the most and are the most familiar with. So there's a lot of things that This is kind of an interesting thing for me because, like I said, casually, I really enjoy playing Dragon Quest 3, but I also really enjoyed it as a speed run too. So I think I'll be approaching it a little bit here on the show from a little bit of both angles. I think we'll have enough time for fun to try some different party members, perhaps, but also kind of with an eye towards that idea. And it's also going to be, a fun and exciting time for something like this. While I imagine many of the mechanics will be similar, even not just because it's ported from an older Dragon Quest game, but even in the series, much of the game's formulas really haven't changed too much. So I do imagine there will be a degree of consistency there, but it's still an opportunity for the speedrunning community to come together, to come up with new ideas, to do new research into how the game works, and it'll be a time of great discovery of new things, and even glitch hunting too, because that's another aspect of a new game coming out as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Dragon Quest has historically been predominantly glitchless. I don't want to say completely glitchless, like the new releases from a speedrun context.
Yeah.
The new releases tend to allow some, and the glitch categories with out of bounds and stuff are a little more popular, but the classic series is mostly run in a glitchless manner. So I am interested in what glitches. I'm kind of hoping there aren't many that will be useful for speedrunning, because I'd like to avoid those conversations. I'm also interested in what kind of curveballs the game's going to throw at us from like a casual standpoint, right? I'll take a simple example, the puzzle in the Magic Pyramid. If we go to the pyramid early, is there a chance we're just not going to know how to get the magic key because it's going to have a different puzzle or a different solution? Like, what's the game going to be like to play for the first time? How are they going to make it different than the game that we already know so well?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that will be really intriguing, is to see. I'm going to lean on my past experience, all my knowledge of playing Dragon Quest III and all of its other versions, for what I expect to have happen. And on one hand, I can be excited when I find something familiar in a place that is familiar. On the other hand, I can also get just as excited finding something I don't expect in a familiar place, or finding a familiar item in a different location. Just little things like that. I'm also kind of hoping too that, well, maybe not hoping, but I'm interested to see if they do any more like fleshing out of the story or things like that. Dragon Quest games, especially older games like this, are very minimalist in their storytelling. And while I don't necessarily want a lot of additional robust storytelling, I think just maybe thinking about this game in particular, maybe seeing a little more evidence of Ortega's travels along your own journey might be a little bit interesting flavor to add. But
yeah, I agree for sure. And I also, I'm curious about the balance of the game, right? Like over time, the older Dragon Quest games and RPGs in general were pretty grindy, and the game expected you to hit certain walls where you had to sit down and just get a little bit more experience or money. But the newer games have been a little bit more friendly towards, just casual pick up and play kind of styles. And I'm just curious where this game is going to fall. Is it going to fall closer to the classic DQ3, or is it going to be, on the more casual friendly side? And that could also have a big impact on the speedrunning, right? In the Super Famicom speedrun, we spend 20 to 30 minutes grinding on metal slimes in, the same one screen. Will the speedrun for this game do something similar? Or will we be, just kind of, blitzing through the story, being a glorified boss rush almost? Or, where's it going to fall on that spectrum?
Yeah. In terms of certain quality of life features that might get added, I'm interested to see what kind of smaller, little things that we might be able to make use of. One thing that might come to mind that's very popular for speedrunning convenience are things like scene skips, but there aren't very many scenes in, long, elaborate cutscenes in Dragon Quest III. So maybe there won't even be that much of it or that much necessity for that.
I'm curious about saving, like manual saves, auto saves. If you wipe out in the pyramid, is there any just reload your auto save and try that floor again or the dungeon again? Or
Yeah, I didn't think of that either. If depending on what kind of places and options that you can use to save. Of course, the old field log you could kind of use in the Game Boy Color version to save where you wanted, but if you loaded that file, it was gone. So you couldn't really use it as a safety technique, right?
Right.
But if we have something where we can try things a little bit more quickly, we'll definitely be able to take some bolder approaches in some certain areas as well. That's definitely the case, I think, in the mobile Switch ports of like Dragon Quest 1 and 2, Dragon Quest 3, right?
Definitely DQ 1 and 2, yeah.
The aesthetic is also something I definitely want to take a close look at. Dragon Quest as, of course, a classic long-running series of monster and character designs by Akira Toriyama, and seeing these models, characters, and monsters kind of come to life in this HD-2D engine. I actually really like the aesthetic look of this engine. So I'd like to see some of the things and some of the exciting animations and effects too. It's one of the exciting things, actually, I feel about Dragon Quest 3, especially the Super Famicom version, is just how fun and interesting and exciting it looks, how animated the monsters are and the effects are on the screen. And an interesting part of that too is it actually plays a bit of balance consideration in the speedrun as well, which is like kind of adds this extra little wrinkle to the game, an extra kind of layer to understanding and enjoying and mastering the game. So we'll definitely have an opportunity to look at it and see how it looks and feels in that sense too. So
yeah, random encounters are a huge part of the game in general and the speedrun in general, right? Like that's one of the other things that makes the speedrun so great is it's visually appealing, but it's also strategically appealing in that you have so many different situations to deal with and complex encounters. And I'll be curious what those look like in this version. Are encounters similar? Are they full of varied monsters with, varying status effect weaknesses, or are they going to shrink the encounter sizes for some reason? Or how's it going to look? How's it going to compare?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the individual encounters, where certain monsters live, and what kind of formations are, or even how many or how often the random counters are drawn, the mechanics that go behind that. As Dragon Quest 3 SFC speedrunners, we understand a lot about how these different mechanics are supposed to work, and we can kind of do certain things, take certain measures to kind of counteract that or kind of make these things work in our favor. So obviously, as I alluded to before, with a new game, there'll be a brand new opportunity to explore all of these systems, not completely from scratch, right? We have a baseline of where to start looking from, right? And I think that'll be exciting too for speedrunning this game. If it's a pretty standard any percent category where we end up doing most of the game, and well, is the party going to be similar? Is it going to be different? Is this new class going to be something that makes a big difference for us, or is it going to feel very similar to the classic SFC route? Who knows? Time will tell, I suppose.
I mean, rolling back to the animations, there's actually some interesting things to be discussed with that, actually. I think, like a lot in Pokemon, one of the big things is that they can turn off the battle animations. So that would be very cool if they added some more complex battle animations and then also made it something that you can shut off. So not only can you enjoy it casually, but you can remove it in terms of a speed run, so you don't lose that time to it, but it's still there as an option. So that's a lot of one of those modern developments that helps with speedrunning a lot, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that kind of goes similar to what I was talking earlier about the controls of the game and how it looks and feels. I think part of that's what options are going to be available. One thing that always trips me up personally, for example, is also the controls. So I'm a big fan of Nintendo style controls where the button on the right face button is confirm and B is cancel. But typically when you play games on a PC version like this, it'll be flipped. And a lot of the new DQ games just have options to like switch confirm and cancel, or will there be accessibility options like fully being able to remap your controls? Obviously, you can do it at like a Steam level or a console level, but will there be in-game options for some of this stuff? I'm interested to see. I don't know what I'm really expecting there, but I'm hoping that it feels somewhat modern in that regard.
Yeah, the modernization is always a very exciting aspect. It's like from the Final Fantasy VII front, like Crisis Core was always kind of stuck in this weird position where it had the slot machine, and them adding the ability to skip those was massive. And the thing is, like, modernizing it in such a way where it adds some cool parts, but also allows you to skip out the slower parts, just keeps its pacing overall. It's very nice to see. At least Square seems to be fairly good about it now. Hopefully they'll keep that up with this, especially since they're going to release 1 and 2 as well. So we're kind of in a position where if whatever 3 does, 1 and 2 is definitely going to do. So hopefully this is for the best.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, we're getting close to having it downloaded, I believe. Unfortunately, like I said, there was a miscommunication between us and Square, the actual download date. I was under the impression that we could pre-download it, but for some reason with Steam, it opened at the same time for everybody else, so we're a little bit just getting that done and getting it set up as soon as we can. So if you guys can hang tight for just a little bit longer, we should be up and running here shortly.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, speak of the devil. Since we're in the setup phase here, I'll get our little segment done, and then I can pass it over to you two while our tech is working in the background. Obviously, as it says over there, this is a sponsored stream from Square Enix. Luckily, they were kind enough to supply a copy of the game and allow us to set this up so that we can showcase this for you. I managed to get a hold of a couple of runners that do Dragon Quest a lot, so hopefully you can get the most information you possibly could out of one of these streams. As I said, the copy was provided for one of our runners, but our opinions are our own, and we are going to look at the game from the aspect of kind of speedrunning and casual in general. So I just want to let you guys know that just because we got a copy of it and a sponsorship does not mean we are not going to be critical of the game. And take it away.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to try and...
I'm going to interject as the voice of the producer here a little bit. Diener, I don't have audio from you yet.
Yes, I'm just turning it on right now.
Lovely.
And I want to adjust it. Or trying to.
Yeah, sorry about that. Normally we get this done ahead of time, but because this little miscommunication. If we do end up doing something for 1 and 2, we will be aware of this. So this is hopefully the last time we will have one of these moments, unfortunately.
Appreciate everyone's patience while we get everything set up. Really excited to play the game. So let me know how the audio balance is.
The best sound.
Through pretty well there.
Okay.
Congratulations, chat. You get to watch us do it live. Enjoy it.
I do expect that the in-game audio might be louder than this menu music based on historical Dragon Quest, so be prepared for some emergency volume adjustments.
All right. How do I want my character to look? All right, this is the... I think this suits me right now. All right. We'll have the character speak in English today. And we can display the location of current objective on the map. You know, I have a feeling I know where the next objective is, but let's go ahead and turn it on and see what it is. Oh, there's a difficulty mode. Okay, so this is new.
You know, I was going to say something about that, because Square really loves these easy, normal, and then hard, and usually like New Game Plus hard. Good to see this, actually.
I also love when games do kind of flavored names for their difficulty. So Draki, Dragon, and Draconian here. So for this show, I think we'll go ahead and just leave it on the regular difficulty setting. I think that'll give us a good understanding of what the game experience should be like for most people.
Seems like a good call. Gives you the best comparison to like regular runs.
So here it says the game is going to auto-save. So we'll see what options we have as far as when that happens and what options we have for loading that file if we want. So right off, it's starting with a very familiar sound to me.
If you can hear me, focus on my voice. Yes, come this way.
So this must be the opening scene here with what would be the personality test.
Will there be a waterfall?
That's what I'm...
Let's see it.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, this looks visually very similar, right? I think even like the color palette of the background screen kind of looks very, very similar to the SFC. Of course, this personality test sequence wasn't in the original Dragon Warrior 3 Famicom NES version. This is a Super Famicom version first. Okay, so you can walk or run. You can move a little faster by holding B, so speedrunners will definitely be wanting B held down. So here it is, the Blessed Waterfall.
Awesome. I'm hoping that the running
option, so that makes the text go faster.
Yeah, I'm hoping that text speed and running and things like that will just have options once we're into the game.
Am I ready to begin? If I say no, she'll send me back, I bet. But yes, we're ready. We've been waiting. My name, I told you earlier, my name was SUMDeaner, so I'll just, I don't want this to take too long. Let's see the actual game, not me naming myself. I'm going to put in my real birthday, for anyone who wants to know, May 15th. Yes, that is correct. So yeah, this game usually asks a series of yes or no questions. In the beginning on a speed run, we would actually want to answer these in a particular way. I don't know what these questions are going to be like. So for fun, I think I'm just going to answer yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious if they're going to be
Sun
the same.
And Sky,
or
a king above all. This is a familiar sounding question to me. No.
Yeah, Sun King Nature, yeah.
Spells and sorceries. Yes. No. Do you trust the words of those who tell fortunes? Yes. Prince or princess? No. Unable to refuse the requests of others? Yes. So I'm just alternating yes, no, just for fun. So I have no idea what it's going to do. Depending on how you answer these questions, you'll get sent to a different final question, usually. Yeah, this final test. And depending on what you do here, that's going to influence what happens.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I mean, some of those questions seem very familiar.
Yeah,
I'll
this
be curious if they're the same.
Kind of seems familiar too.
Yeah, I'll be curious if it's the same series of answers to get similar personalities to the other versions. Like I think a lazy hero for that one was yes, no, 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 yes, yes, yes. I remember right. I think it's the first one.
Yeah. This is boring. I want to go on an adventure. I'll just leave. I like that the responses to the final test questions, you have a lot of freedom in some of them, and some of them are really creative as to like what actually happens.
And your personality will change based on what you do within the dream too. It's not just the questionnaire, it's the question combined with what you're doing in the dream. So
you're a free spirit. This personality test is kind of interesting. Obviously, it's just kind of a vague yes or no questions thing, but I don't know. It's kind of fun. It's definitely a creative way of doing an introduction to a game like this. I can't think of too many games that really open with a lot of questions about you like this.
what was the actual personality that it gave you?
I don't know if it gave me the actual name of the personality, but it was saying about how it was free-spirited.
Yeah, I saw that. Get a little new backstory here.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Sorry for spoilers, but I have played Dragon Quest III before, and I'm familiar with the story.
Yeah, so for anyone who hasn't, the gist of what it was just explaining is that you're the son of the hero Ortega, and Ortega went off on a journey to defeat the archfiend Baramos and fell into a volcano and has not been heard from since. And so as Ortega's son, it's our turn. It's our 16th birthday. It's our turn to go meet the king and try again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so while this is technically a brand new game, obviously it's a remake of a very classic, very old JRPG. So while there's some new things, there's some things that I'm not going to directly spoil. I'm not going to not spoil maybe certain things. I don't know.
Yeah. Consider the possibility of DQ3 spoilers. If you don't know the DQ3 story,
I'll do my best to not accidentally say something, but this is also a game that's been around for a really long time, and if you haven't played it before and you wanted to, like, well, what were you waiting for?
You know
Right.
where the castle is. Straight on now.
some voice acting added in.
Remember to mind your manners. I won't have the king thinking you've been dragged up.
All right. So just really quickly here, testing some of these menus. These feel very responsive, right?
Awesome.
So just playing around with a couple of things here.
What's the button to open the menu? What's the confirm and cancel button? Those sorts of things.
This way, it's mapped actually as X confirm, so it's not quite the Nintendo style. So it's X confirm, circle cancel.
Okay.
That's currently how I have it set up on my PC. I'm pretty sure I could remap the button in the Steam version if I wanted to, or map the buttons on my controller doing whatever I want. Open menu is with the would be the X button, the top button on
Triangle.
Yeah, and then square here does this map.
Okay. So pretty common controls.
I was using the D-pad to move around my 4-way D-pad, but you can use the stick to move in a little bit more analog direction too, so that's nice.
Yeah, movement looks pretty decent in this running speed version. Was there an option to I didn't see to auto run?
Yeah, I haven't checked too much with the gameplay settings yet, so.
Well met, child of Ortega.
Bit more of a flashbacky kind of way of telling the story.
Any of Ortega's belongings. I see. To think.
My husband thought long and hard before setting off. I'm sure he was at peace when he passed.
Can't find any of his belongings. I bet I know where his helmet is.
He needed it in that battle.
Your mother has recounted the tale of your father's final moments many times. When he fell into the maw of that accursed volcano, the world lost.
I need to hear my important quest here this first time.
We wholeheartedly approve of your wish to follow in his footsteps and set forth on the path of adventure, for it is what he would have wanted. And
only the child of such a hero could hope to save our world.
Hope to save our world. The foe we face is dire indeed. The
Archfiend.
Many of the peoples of this world do not yet even know his name, and yet his grip on our realm grows ever tighter. He must be stopped, no matter the cost.
The king's giving a pretty good speech here.
You must free us from the Archfiend's ever-encroaching tyranny. But alone, you will only meet the same fate as your father. Go and consult with Mistress Patty in town, and use this to outfit the companion.
Oh boy, we're gonna get our lovely starting prize, 50 gold coins and some sticks.
Yep.
Allow me
This
to
is-
proffer some guidance.
That's a funny one. I'll wait.
Oh, okay.
Open a myriad of the world's doors.
Here's the Chancellor, for someone who hasn't played this game, giving a direct thing, saying, hey, you should go here. I guess we did in the beginning here, it's giving me an option to direct me a little bit. I think that will be very nice early on in the game for people who weren't familiar with this game. But I wonder, some parts a little later on, the game does open up a little bit and lets you approach things in an order that you kind of want to, how you see fit, right? So, like for instance, when you get a boat, what are you supposed to do next? Well, there's a lot of different things you can do. So how does it approach that? I'm just kind of interested.
Yeah, same. I don't think we'll be getting quite that far on this stream, but I'm also interested in that.
Okay. Yep, you have the recall ability. That's the thing from earlier.
So you can save dialogue or scenes to your memory, and then you can recall it. So you don't need to keep a notepad around to write everything down when NPCs tell you certain things.
Well, that's not what I was expecting.
Huh. Yeah, that's not a luck seed.
No, it's not. This doesn't look like it opens. So.
What I was going to say is I think the starting equipment is interesting. It's what I expected. But I only bring it up because specifically in the US or English NES version, you did not get the starting equipment from the king. Instead, when you recruited new characters from the tavern, they came pre-equipped with some basic equipment, clothes or traveler's clothes or a club maybe or a stick. But only in that one version. In the Japanese Famicom version and in all the remakes, you've gotten the classic 50 gold plus starting equipment. So
I've got to go look for my friend here.
Gotta go down the well.
It's a classic Dragon Quest thing to go in wells. But I just want to make sure that my friend, the mini metal guy, is down here.
He sure is. And the bookshelf in the left room should tell you what the rewards are, or maybe the person. I think it's usually the bookshelf.
There's way more rewards here than in the original. Some of the other cheaper earlier prizes are here, like the Thorn Whip, but they're at fewer medals, and there's also a lot more things in here. I'm curious to see if now medals actually might become a thing that we use in this run. If the Thorn Whip only takes 2 medals, that might actually be something worth it. Now we're also probably, if we're following the SFC route, getting chain whips pretty early, and those would blow that out of the water. But still, maybe there might be something there to it.
For sure.
That's interesting. That'll be fun casually. I like mini metal hunting.
I'll be curious how visible they'll be. So in the Super Famicom version, there's an ability that thieves get, seek out, or I don't know, it's maybe like nose for treasure or something in a modern translation, that will cause hidden items to appear on the world.
Like glimmer, yeah.
But in a lot of modern games, those sparkly spots are just kind of visible by default. So will there be a similar ability that you need to use to find the mini medals, or will they just kind of be available? So these are the pre-order items.
Yeah, that looks like the pre-order goodies. For speedrunners, typically our rule set will say no to all the pre-order bonus stuff. I'll leave it there for now. So this is where we get to make our own unique characters for our party. There's usually some pre-built characters, usually a warrior, a cleric, and a mage pre-built in there. We'll take a look later. But I always love to make my own characters. It's one of my absolute favorite things about Dragon Quest III.
Also a reason that I like Dragon Quest IX, because it has a similar system.
All right, Hack, what vocation would you like to have?
I think I want to be a priest. I like being the healer.
Good. Okay. Appearance A or B?
Let's go with B. Okay.
Oh, you get even more variety on top of that. Oh, this is really neat.
Oh, I can't see them super well on my stream, so
okay. They have different hats, different hairstyles. I kind of like this one, kind of like a mortarboard kind of style. But you can even change the hair.
I gotta go with pink hair.
Oh yeah, there we go. We get 5 seeds.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How about let's throw 2 in stamina and 3 in wisdom. I want a little bit of health, but I want a little bit of magic also.
Quite the everyman type.
All right.
Oh, see here, you're getting an explanation of what it does a little bit, kind of a little bit of a vague clue. Improve in a balanced manner. It's saying it has to do with how the attributes. And then you get like a voice sound here too. So
Yeah, just pick something.
headstrong. There we go. Okay.
Sure.
Sounds good. Okay, you can recruit this character into your party directly from here, it looks like.
Oh, good.
So, okay, that's nice. All right. All right. I think for my second character, name it after our good friend of ours, speedrunning legend Clear Tonic. So Tonic here can join our party. I want to try this new Monster Wrangler class. So let's take a look at that. I like this like wolf head one. Yeah, this seems good. He's a pretty tough guy. I noticed here we have strength and defense as separate stats here, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
This isn't like...
Yeah, resilience is new.
Yeah.
So in the older versions, your defense was based off of your agility stat in this game.
Mm-hmm, yeah. But Tonic's a tough guy. The Drudge.
I can make a bad suggestion for our last character.
I had something in mind. He's
See if it's the same thing that I had in mind.
Something I always love to do. One of my favorite classes is actually the Sage, and of course you can't just recruit sages. You have to make a jester first, right? And there's always my good friend here, Grimora. He's always telling me I need more goof offs.
The exact same idea that I had.
Oh, perfect. So he is the jester type. Get out. I'm a big fan of the bunny jester. Let's go with the classic type. Classic all the way. Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, I should have done it randomly.
Yeah.
You can have a little of everything. Daydreamer.
Sounds just like Grimora.
Elegant. I think that's him too. So this seems like a lot of fun. I can definitely see myself having a lot of fun with this party creation thing in a casual setting. And with enough like little variety here, even with the speedrun, I think there's, it's not going to take me more than a couple of seconds to pick some different... oops, actually we're not looking for more characters. Unless for some reason we can take more than 3 people with us. I don't imagine that's a thing. Okay, cool. So we have our party put together. Let's not spend too much more time. I want to hit the road, but we should probably maybe do something with this free equipment we got. So here's the basic
you didn't make
clues
the
about
merchant.
how
You'll need
to,
the merchant later.
Let's sneak off the side here. All right, so let's see. We've got some basic equipment here. So they've separated some of these bags. So you don't just have a bag. There's always room in your 3 bags. So that's going to be pretty interesting here that equipment and items are separated here. On one hand, this does make it really nice that certain things will be separated. On the other hand, I'm noticing that it's going to take me a couple extra inputs to get to items, right? I can't come from the bottom once. Although it looks like it might even have cursor memory within this submenu.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Huh. Okay. So on one hand, that's really good. On the other hand, that's going to be something really dangerous when I accidentally use my Wing of Wyverns to go to the wrong place.
Can you press square to immediately close the menu from deeper in the menu like this?
It doesn't look like I can, no.
Okay.
But I haven't tried the shoulder buttons or any of the other things here, because it looks like there's some sorting things that you can do here without having to go into here and sort things there. It's sorted directly from the bag. So there might even be some other small tech stuff we can do with that. Okay.
I mean, these menus look really good. They look really responsive.
This is pretty clean in terms of how this. Oops. It's so responsive. I tried to use it. All right, so just give me a moment here to dish out some of this. Oops. Yeah, I need to get used to it.
Yeah,
The feel
for
of
sure.
it's a little different, so.
So what's happening here is that in the Super Famicom version, the submenu of like use, transfer, discard, etc. has memory cursor, but in this it doesn't seem to. So Diener's by habit mashing, expecting it to transfer the next item and using it. I think is what's happening there.
There's also some stuff here where I can get the menu text to move faster by pressing buttons. So I'm kind of like pressing A to try and advance the text, but then accidentally selecting the first thing, if you know what I mean.
The GBC dilemma.
So there's some random items here in the overworld.
That's new.
I haven't commented on it yet, but one of the things that I really always am very nostalgic about for Dragon Quest III is the music. And I listen to the castle music, town music, and now this overworld music. It sounds great.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, DQ3 music is awesome.
Random battles. So Sting Moth here, really? I wasn't expecting this at this part of the overworld, but that's okay. So we have some basic stuff here. So the flee menu, or you can hold, but that's going to be slower than picking it as an option. That has a confirm to it. That actually might be kind of nice. I have gotten in trouble accidentally trying to run from something before. But rather than the menu going straight to this first screen here, it's on this one here. So it's kind of like Dragon Quest V in that sense, where you pick fight instead of like tactics, or Dragon Warrior 4, for anyone familiar with that, where there's that extra menu before you start giving commands. Obviously, these are in a different place. They've got abilities and spells separated. That's one thing I'm interested to see in the... Now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, let's go ahead and start fighting. Oh, looks like my other characters are already set to tactics.
Yeah, tactics is also a new thing. Like that wasn't in Dragon Quest III before, but that was added with Dragon Quest IV.
Also looks like the speed is very slow, so I'm going to figure out how to update that.
Yeah, this I'm sure that we
Oh,
this can
here,
be
battle
easily
speed,
sped up.
ultra fast. That was on normal, so I think we're.
Okay.
I also want everyone to follow orders for now. So, okay, there we go. So,
the tactics could be a really interesting thing for a speedrun. So, in the typical version of this game, or every previous version of this game, it's been only manual control. But there are some things that other DQ games do with tactics that are sometimes very useful. So in some games, like Dragon Quest VI, for example, your AI party members have a good knowledge of enemy weaknesses and will just use things that enemies are weak against in a reliable manner. Or another really common one is healing. You can set your healer to a tactic, so if you get outsped, your healer will automatically heal the person who needs it, rather than having to, kind of... The way we speedrun this game is we give our healer a ton of speed, so we outspeed the boss. But in some games, you want your healer to be slow, and after the boss acts, your healer just responds by healing. So there's some potential for some strategy around the addition of tactics there.
my characters don't have too much strength or that many exciting abilities just yet, but now that I'm looking at it as far as the abilities are concerned, I'm interested to see, thinking about some of the abilities that might get added from the newer Dragon Quest games to some of the classes, like the soldier or the fighter or some of these other classes. Oh, slime! Look at you. I know who you are.
Classic. But only 3 of them.
But yeah, some of the newer abilities that have been added from some of these newer Dragon Quest games that weren't around back then. One thing I did notice is that it does a little bit of color coding based off of the health of my party members. It turns yellow and orange. It was doing the same thing for the monsters as well. So this is actually going to be very helpful for us as kind of, as we're playing. It's going to give us a little clues and things like that as to like how far along we are in a boss battle. As speedrunners, I'm usually kind of trying to guess sometimes about Zoma's health, and I kind of don't know. It might be nice to know the game giving me some feedback about that. On the other hand, it is kind of an acquired skill to actually keep track of that sort of thing too. So, well, being as that I don't really, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that both of us just kind of play this game by feel a lot, and you just kind of know where you're at in the fight based on how it's going. But there are definitely some complicated situations where you can get a little bit lost. I do know some runners are very good about counting HP for certain bosses. Darko is always talking about how much HP or how many hits something has
He knows
left.
exactly how much HP everything has all the time. It's really impressive.
So, but having this little indicator it's good enough. It doesn't give you an exact number, but it gives you a feel of where you're at without having to.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably something like 50%, and then I don't know, 25% or 10% or something. It'll go red, something along those lines. So this is already interesting that we're entering this town from the bottom.
Yeah.
So normally you enter the town from the left side.
It looks different, and I'm already confused about which shop is which. Not that I'm necessarily trying to do a speedrun technique with the party being completely different. It also seems like I'm not exactly hitting certain enemies very hard. That was a pretty big encounter that we saw earlier, so. Just kind of looking around at some things as a speedrunner. I'm, checking around for how things are organized. Some money.
Yeah, like medical herbs being in the middle of the shop.
Exactly. There. Yeah. So we're just kind of looking for specific random things. If you don't speedrun this game, there's probably some things we're looking at for that you're just like, well, why? But
there's also one thing I'm curious about is I don't think you need the thief key. The building that's right next to the shop in this town, in SFC, has a book in it to change personalities, I believe. And there's also one up next to the thief key. But I'll be curious whether or not those books exist, whether you can just get an item to change your personality, and if so, if it'll tell you what it does.
So that guy giving me a clue, and now it's updating me about where to go to find it. So yeah, it looks like we're getting these personality books.
Yeah, there you go. So it's obviously got like a ton of similarity then. Like if they're the house next to the shop has the personality book, like, pretty cool that it's keeping that level of consistency even though it's kind of rearranging the town.
Yeah. And then there's also some small things that are definitely in different places. So that kind of reminds me too. It's a small metal in this, a tiny metal in this town. If you push this boulder over here, is that also still a thing here? Where they kind of teach you can move these things.
Oh, yeah.
It's money. It's not a tiny metal.
Oh.
It's actually a lot of money right now. So,
yeah, it is.
I actually
buy
would
some
like to
weapons.
Maybe buy a better weapon for somebody. Yeah. Or something. Doesn't look like I can get anything too much more powerful, but
I have to say I'm really enjoying the visuals of this game. So I'm one who I'm a little lukewarm on the HD-2D style. But I like the style. My typical complaint, I'll say, like people will talk about like Octopath Traveler, and I am not a fan of all the post-processing. So the vignetting, this extreme depth of field, background blur aspect, the like really extreme lighting, and this game looks very clean. which I'm really liking. It looks really good, but it looks clean. It doesn't have all the post-processing effects, and it's letting the artwork kind of shine.
Yeah, you want a game like this to feel kind of like, the classic Dragon Quest games. Obviously, it's built off of a very, very old game, so having it look a little bit like that. Oh, there's a small medal here. Neat. It's definitely going to be something I think is a plus. So obviously a door here, showing that on the map indicator. So we can go this way towards the tower, which is going to be our first major quest objective, right?
Which I also noticed was highlighted on the mini map.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I didn't quite read that tooltip. Did that say I could use items out of my bag from during battle?
I don't know.
Let me take a look at that later.
That would be
extremely powerful.
strong.
Yes. Okay, no, I misread that then. You, of course, can change equipment that you have and use items that you're holding, but not just things out of the bag. All right,
Do you know that you can use items even during battle?
Definitely. So, of course, just one tiny thing I can already notice is that the sprites for my party are changing based off of the equipment they have. So the different weapons they have, it's already reflected that they're, holding different weapons.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's always that's another. I mentioned DQ9 earlier, Dragon Quest 9, as being another game where you kind of create your own party. But that's something people always love about that game too, is your equipment showing up on your character.
I'm very surprised. I do almost no damage to these enemies. Not sure traveling forward and fighting some of these things is going to be too easy.
Was the hero also doing low damage?
I'm not sure.
We've got a priest, a monster wrangler, and a goof off. It's not like we have a strong fighting party here.
This is true. It's also possible I was attacking something that was defending.
You let me die?
I didn't mean to.
Monster.
Okay, that was a little better. Yeah, the priest probably in the 2 spot, not so great.
The coffin, that's awesome.
Oh, that was a dodge. Okay.
Time to heal.
I do 0 damage to Frogor.
I wonder if we should consider swapping a party member out for a mage.
It seems like it might be something that's helpful. I'm actually
as much as I like this party.
That's definitely something that's very different from what we're used to. Oh, that's interesting. When you select use on medical orb, it just stays open. That's nice. That's actually really nice. I'm not expecting this to go well, but we're gonna.
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
We're gonna press forward for now, anyway. Oh.
Oops. 5 anteaters.
We'll see how much I can do. 3 damage.
It's interesting. So in Super Famicom, the biggest you can run into here is 4 of them. But I do know in the Game Boy Color version, the formations are a little bit different, and you can end up with some bigger fights. And I'm curious if this is just completely rebalanced, or if this is sort of taken a little bit from the Game Boy Color formation generation.
Yeah. Obviously, this is not going well. I've ventured into an area that is apparently not appropriate for my characters, but I also don't know what I'm doing, so collecting a little bit of information is not a bad thing. If you were playing casually, I imagine you'd take a little bit more time looking around the town, collecting stuff, buying some equipment, maybe making a party that isn't quite so unique.
Fragile?
So this autosave comes, so here's what happens, I guess, when I die, I can choose. This autosave looks like it's back from the tower. This is going to go back to a church, and I'll lose my money. This is the traditional kind of way of resuming. Being that I already have dead characters in a place I don't really feel comfortable being, I'll just come back here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can always just argue that you did it on purpose to test the other system mechanics you hopefully never have to use ever again.
Right. Well, in somewhat seriousness, death warping is a pretty common thing that happens in Dragon Quest speedrunning. Not in this game, in this run particular, but in other games it is. So having that at least as an option of being like, yes, I do want to die, and yes, I do want to get sent back to town. Maybe having that in my playbook is...
Yeah, for sure. And the autosave, conversely, can mean that a death in the Magic Pyramid or something like that is not an immediate reset to run.
It definitely looks like that's something that's going to be available as an option for us to try, is just go pretty hard early towards the magic key and go from there. All right, we're going to switch up the party a little bit and just get an idea of, like, is it me? Is it the party? Is it the fact that I didn't use the strength seeds? There's a lot of different things I can try.
Yeah, I'm really curious about this monster wrangler. Like, I don't have a feeling for how strong the monster wrangler is, and is monster recruitment going to be available from the start, or is this something that's going to come into its own a little bit later on? Can you drop off the hero? I'm assuming not, but it's always something that people want to try, is doing a playthrough with just 4 custom characters. The game doesn't usually let you do it, but
yeah.
No, okay.
Okay, so pick out. Here's the pre-built characters here. We have a warrior, a mage, and a cleric, as usual. We'll take this random warrior and wizard here, but you can stay.
I appreciate it.
I'm also going to change the party order too. Oops, that's not how it works. Okay. Now that we have some slightly different party members and, well, maybe not any equipment, but
I wonder if you should have taken some of the equipment off of the other characters that you just deposited.
Yeah. Oh, well. Didn't have anything really that exciting, but... Okay. So it definitely looks like the some of the balance, at least in the early game, is a little bit different. Some of these enemies seem like they're in some more powerful formations, and just overall durability-wise seem a little bit tougher. So,
this is the normal difficulty, right? That we chose?
Yes.
So
they're on tactics, so we'll just let them do what they need to do.
So there will also be an easy or a hard mode, depending on how you feel about these encounters, but I'm sure with a couple levels that this will just smooth right out.
Yeah. It's my fault for picking a bit of a unique party, like I said, but okay. So that shows us learning spells there. That's the expel magic poof.
That's the same.
Yeah, that's what we would expect.
Like the easy versus normal and hard. Would you, like, obviously this is very much off the hip, but in terms of speedrunning, would you be interested in trying the easy, or do you think you guys will probably stick with normal or hard in terms of that kind of experience?
I don't think I would be interested in easy, personally.
Yeah, me neither. I'm someone who tends to like something to be a little firmer. And one of the things I legitimately like about Dragon Quest speedrunning in general, especially Dragon Quest 3, is there are legitimate moments of tension where I think I'm going to die here, right? And things go very wrong and I have to figure that out. So I kind of don't want it to be too easy. It depends on what that feel would be. If it turns out that the easy ends up being something where, well, because we do it at such a low level, it ends up being fun and engaging. That could be possible. Or conversely, the hard difficulty might be, it's like, oh, it just requires needless grinding.
Right. Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah,
I agree.
So I think it'll
interesting fights, but
I think over time it will kind of be revealed. I think the normal mode is going to be one that most people initially gravitate towards. But I could see any of them ending up being the most popular kind of thing.
I imagine we'll have runs of all three difficulties.
One thing I think that I'm noticing here is that it looks like it restores my character on leveling up.
That's what I was just noticing also, which is pretty common in the newer Dragon Quest games.
That can definitely make a pretty big... Oh, is that a Kaishin no Ichigeki? The text was yellow. It looked like a special animation. That could definitely make certain segments that we do that are more endurance focused, like the end of the game, a lot different if we can actually recover off of leveling up instead of having to rely on some other things.
For sure. Sell those prayer rings.
Never buy them in the first place, yeah. So if you didn't know this part about this early part of Dragon Quest 3, there's actually several different ways of getting to this first tower area. So I'm trying to just sort of take a look here at some of these other passages here. The way we checked out first, obviously, is shorter.
This cave normally has 2 or 3 treasure chests in it with some gold and, I don't know, maybe like medical herbs or chimera wings or something like that. I don't remember exactly what's down here, but...
Set of traveler's clothes or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, the warrior is learning abilities, which is something
Whipping Boy.
very, very new.
That's really cool. So Whipping Boy is like a cover ability where you can choose to target another ally and you'll spend your turn defending them, and if they get attacked, you will instead take that attack for them. So you could protect a low health party member, or if you had, some games like DQ9 uses a very glass cannon setup and you have your strong glass cannon protected by somebody using Whipping Boy. So that's pretty cool. Definitely very different though.
Yeah, okay, cool. That could definitely come in handy in some certain pinch scenarios I can think of for maybe a fight like Baramos, depending on how that looks. Oops, I wanted to actually cast magic.
Infinite onion rings.
The warrior also does a lot of... Looks like he hits a lot harder, has much higher strength than even the hero does at start, which I think is what kind of caught me off guard. Maybe it's just because of the personality type that we have for our hero. It's not as strength-based as maybe some of the other ones are.
Could be. I know in DQ3 Super Famicom, your starting stats do vary based on your starting personality, so...
Oops, I didn't want to heal. Still getting used to the controls, but that's okay.
What other spell? Oh, Dazzle. Okay. Try to see what other spell the priest had.
Yeah, you definitely recover your HP and MP, it looks like, when you level up. That's going to make some certain things early game maybe a little bit easier too.
For sure. I could potentially even say, like, you know, I like a little bit of a challenge, so I could even potentially say possibly too easy. But, you know, it's certainly possible that encounters or bosses or dungeons have been rebalanced to account for that too. So
Yeah,
I'm definitely holding any judgment on that.
well,
I'm also curious, that would be a cool thing if, like, Draconian Quest removed that mechanic or something, right? Like, I don't think it would, but I think that would be, you know, a good thing for a hard mode to consider having an option for. Or
one of the things I always really enjoyed about this graphics style and engine is the shadows and lighting effects. You have the sprites that definitely look like they belong to, you know, an older, simpler game, but then you have these shadows being cast by the characters by this torch, being these, like, very very detailed kind of lighting effects. Is kind of this very interesting juxtaposition. I don't know why, for whatever reason, I find the shadows being cast off the characters to look really, really interesting.
for sure. I'm also really liking the way that the one view, like when you're selecting your actions of the enemies, have them like kind of in a staggered kind of formation rather than all just being in a line. I think that looks pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. But then it lines up when we go here to make it easy to understand what's going on.
Yep.
So definitely like how the battles look overall. The monsters so far look really good. I like that. Even idle, they've got a little bit of animation here. The slimes look really wiggly, like they should.
I noticed that Frizz Blaze is hitting for 19 damage, which is pretty strong.
It has different colored text on certain enemies. Sometimes it's white and sometimes it's red. I think there's certain enemies, like the slime, might be taking more damage from normal. So
like a weakness.
Like there's a little bit of like elemental effect playing into that a little bit more.
And so in the older versions of this game, you could have resistance to certain types of spell effects, but you couldn't have a weakness to anything.
Yeah, you don't really have weaknesses.
It was a susceptibility, and if it failed, it would just do nothing, and if it succeeded, it would do its full effect. But this seems to have some level of in between, which is kind of neat and more in line with, you know, the more modern Dragon Quest releases.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's an interesting addition, because honestly, it gives each one of the games its own identity versus each version. So there's a reason to keep playing one or the other rather than it's like, oh, this is definitive. No reason to play anything else ever again.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
That's the hero learning a new spell as well. I was also curious about testing the... Oh, that's right. They have two different versions. Yeah.
Versions of...
There's the heal all and the handy heal all or whatever. It works a little differently. Oh, I want to go the other way, I think. Now we can wander around the back, see what's back there.
I think maybe one of the versions will use items and the other one won't, or maybe one just doesn't fully heal you if it's only a little bit of healing you need. I'm not remember exactly how the different heal versions work. This will be another thing that'll be interesting is what are the flee chances like? So in the Super Famicom version, your first try to run away is 25%, your second try is 50, then 75, then you're guaranteed. In the NES version, it's 50-50, 75, 100. But a lot of newer DQ games use more of like a formula based on your agility and what the enemy speed is, and there's a bunch of different versions that Dragon Quest has done for flee chances, and it's pretty critical to the speedrun because fighting is typically slower than just running away. And there are sometimes you walk through areas where you just can't fight the enemies. And so I'm curious what that'll feel like in this game. I don't know how much fleeing we're going to be doing on this show, but it's definitely something that Diener and I will be
That's
testing
kind
out
of
during our
why
own playthroughs.
I've been trying it. Yeah, just every now and then, just to see. I just want to give these seeds of strength to my hero. Yeah, his strength is barely better than a cleric's. That's pretty weird. I wonder if it is just the personality type that I have to start. I could take this defense seed too. I was spelling around a little bit with this equip menu from here. This is way easier to actually do equipment. You can swap things between people or grab things out of the bag from here, and there isn't a confirm thing. So that's way faster to to set things up from. So I'm learning in front of you all. Yeah, so it did 20 damage, but it was like in red text there, so I don't know if that's a special effect on these enemies, particularly because of the elemental type or whatever. But
I mean, it could be one of two things. It could be either, the red text is implying a weakness, or maybe it could even just be it's red because it's doing a fire element, right?
I could have sworn I saw it was white on something else, but
okay.
We'll find out. This wall makes sense. Yeah, see, it was 12 damage on the bunny corn.
Okay.
In white.
Yeah, in white.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's some kind of like weakness effect here.
Okay. The SK, I'm not really sure about the level growth as to whether this feels similar to SFC yet or not. I haven't been looking too closely at the stat gains. Maybe Diener could open the stat screen real quick and we could look. If you're generally looking for like, is your HP roughly double your stamina, or is your MP roughly double your wisdom stat? And that'd give like a pretty good indication of what we got here.
I would say that, yeah, those look like they correlate 2 to 1 pretty well.
Yeah, pretty close.
Which, of course, will vary. Yeah, that seems pretty similar. It did seem like the starting level 1 stats were a little different. Characters felt like they had a little more HP on average to start, which is kind of nice. Sometimes characters in Dragon Quest 3, Dragon Warrior 3, and older versions, you recruit them at level 1 and they have like 7 hit points. And they die in 2 hits to something, and you're like, oh. One thing I did notice here is that my mage learned a new spell at level 4, and it was not the one I was expecting.
Yeah, he learned Ice Bolt at 4.
Yeah,
Crack.
We got Crack, aka Ice Bolt. We might be using some of the different naming spell conventions back and forth between us. We are just, I don't want to speak for Haktical, but I played a lot of older Dragon Quest games, Dragon Warrior games too, so I'm used to that naming style as well too.
Same, and I'm probably more used to the Japanese naming than even the older English namings. Kyoto. Yeah, so, we would have been expecting upper, which is buff, at level 4, and Ice Bolt at level 5.
Which, having Ice Bolt at this point of the game, I'm doing a tremendous amount of damage to these enemies. 30 damage, that's wild.
Yeah, it's a ton.
All right. This party's a couple levels higher and a little bit more balanced. We're having a lot more success.
Yeah, hopefully we can start cruising a little bit. These moths typically know the surround spell or dazzle, and they're just really not fun to fight with a melee-oriented party.
Yeah, my instinct already trying to run away from those things, especially.
Absolutely.
Speaking of changes, did you see it in the menu if they had an option to change the soundtrack, or is it just orchestrated?
I haven't looked too much in the options, and that's a good point. I'm going to actually take a minute after this battle. We can take a look at some of the different things that are available.
Sounds good, because even I was wondering, and I haven't played it in a while, but I know this series is really big on like the selectables for those type of things.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
it's always a point of contention when a different version comes out and it's MIDI or it's orchestrated or I'm actually tend to be a fan of MIDI soundtracks in a lot of cases, but that's an unpopular opinion.
So here's where you can change the battle speed, some brightness settings. So you can have it be a little more zoomed in, whether you want the minimap on or off. So there's autoplay cutscene. Okay.
Okay, that's good. Audio balancing.
You can adjust the difficulty on the fly too, so looks like you're not locked in if you've decided that you don't like what you're playing. Cool. Okay, so running, it looks like you can have it just be toggleable. Okay, and then you can change the text speed to just always be fast as well. All right, cool. It doesn't look like there is a different, like, soundtrack setting or anything like that. Looks like we're getting this.
I do see an alter confirm button, so I'm assuming that lets you swap, confirm, and cancel in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit unfortunate, but it does look like the menu is pretty robust and gives you most of what you want.
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, I didn't quite go in here either. There's some more graphic settings. This is, of course, I'm playing on the PC version, so I'm going to have some more graphics options, I bet, than you might see in some of the console releases. I'm not 100% sure. So
yeah, and that's one thing I mentioned earlier is that some of the effects that typically get applied to this, like depth of field, I'm not usually a big fan of. I can just turn it off. Mm-hmm. So that's great.
Firstly, I don't know if the odds are the same, but it's definitely one of the first things that'll be important for us to understand. Although, then again, like we were talking before, if we can take advantage of some of the auto-saving stuff in some areas, we might just be able to get away with dying a few times in places and having it not be a big deal.
Yeah.
So this is our next quest objective here. We should be giving us the Thief's Key.
Well, so you've come at last. I've dreamt so many times of giving you this key. But it must mean something, so here you go.
No. If you say no, he does not give you the key. There's some dialogues you can say either thing, and then there's some things where, but thou must.
Yeah.
In this case, if you say no, the dialogue ends and you have to talk to him again. But
now, use that to go and have a look inside the house in Reeve with a... Don't worry, the chap there loves visitors. He won't mind you dropping in
Oh, okay.
Off you go then. I can't stand.
I changed the text speed to this ultra fast, so it's drawing the text instantly. I can even advance it with what looks like inputs from my D-pad, so we can blast through this text when it comes time pretty easily. Oh, he gave us a wing up here.
I'm noticing here there's a treasure chest in this room. I don't think that's normal. Marrowing, okay. And the shelf with the red book indicates there being something here, presumably. That's how it is in some of the other Dragon Quest games.
Whee!
I see some questions in chat about spell learning. Obviously, we have no idea how that works yet. Typically, in the Super Famicom version, it's based on specific spells. Some are just guaranteed learned, some are... Oh, interesting.
It looks like you can travel to more places than just towns with the Return and Kimmerling here. We can go back to dungeons we've previously visited. This is going to potentially be extremely interesting. Because I think there's some opportunities here where I did want to go to Reeve in this case, but they might be able to travel to certain places faster going to counterintuitive locations, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we have more options, there's definitely more instances where we can find a shorter path, right? If we have more choices, then lots of different ways that we can...
Even things just like returning directly to the tower in Dharma rather than
walking
turning
back
to the
after
town and walking
there once. Exactly. Any place we have to visit more than once. Now, even if it's a dungeon, that's good. What we can say about the spell learning is that it's already know that it's at least a little different. Because the mage should not be learning crack at level 4. And the older version, that does not happen.
Yeah.
I wonder if the spell learning is going to end up being at fixed levels and not have chance stuff.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
It's a seed of wisdom.
Okay. Get your upstairs antidote herb.
Antidote herb? Leather hat? That's not an antidote herb. That's kind of going to be fun. Every little thing that's not what I expect is just as exciting as finding something I do expect.
What are you doing in here? I could have sworn I locked the front door. What's that? The thief.
All right.
You are.
We'll get our Mahonotama. The wrecking ball here.
It's I have to say, like, I think I'm personally not a huge fan of the voice acting in this style of game in particular. I'm always like a noted voice acting detractor. I tend to find like when you're playing a 50 or 60 hour or 80 hour or 100 hour long RPG, it slows things down a lot listening to all the dialogue. It's kind of game dependent though. I know a lot of people really like it, and it seems like there's just an option to turn the voice dialogue volume off. So if I don't want to use it,
turn it down, then
I can just turn it down.
Mm-hmm. And it looked like it had option for English or Japanese audio for the voice track too. So you get a little bit of variety there too if you want both versions. I like that. Yeah, so far it sounds okay. I don't mind.
I mean, I think the voice acting itself, quality-wise, is fine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think one thing I can say about myself in particular, personally, I can read text faster than it can be read out loud by somebody. So sometimes with voiceover acting, I often don't listen to all of it because I've already read the text. I'm trying to see the next thing. So sometimes it's nice to put it on like auto advance, set it down while I eat a sandwich or something. If there's a good story scene I just want to watch, but I tend to, when I play it, just be a little more active with it. So
yeah, it definitely depends. Sometimes the cadence of the voiceover is just so slow that you're like, all right, I finished reading this like literally 5 seconds ago. Please, let's move on.
Yeah,
so it's definitely a fair criticism to make for sure.
And nothing else. There also seem to be keeping it here to like key story beats or key NPCs. It's not every line of dialogue. You know, I could throw out like The Witcher as an example of like the game feels so bogged down by just every single line in the game being voice acted. But in this game, it's like, you know, it's giving you the key stuff that you need to know in a voiceover, which I think is completely fair.
Yeah, because like 16, I had an issue with the pacing because of that. So it's definitely realistic. It's like, all right, just give me the main story. The rest of you, shut up.
Can't believe you're fighting the heel slime, Diener.
I know. I'm desperate for that 6 experience points. We've all been there. Okay. Good. Let's move forward here.
I think the little shrine outside the cave, isn't there a mini medal in there? Normally?
I can't remember. I think there's a path. It takes you back to the castle, I think.
No. I mean the one outside the Magic Ball Cave. The one that takes you to the castle is it's at the basement of the tower we were just in, the Thief Key Tower.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember if there's like a traveler's gate there or something. There's something there.
And the one I'm thinking of, this has like a bedroom in it or something like that. And I thought there was a couple of dressers or chests and maybe a mini medal. I'm wondering if we can get that thorn whip.
tells me about whips. So he just gives you a clue, I guess. Oh, there's Yep, there you are.
There you go.
And there's a camera wing too. So you know what? Let's do it. Because we can come back right here, right? So if I come up here, we should be able to use the wing to travel back to Aliahan. Nice classic Dragon Quest sound effects.
The music and sounds in this game are really good so far.
Mm-hmm. Looks like there's a path back here. All right, cool. The town has actually changed layout slightly. There's these fences and a couple other things preventing me from walking in certain directions. So all just little things that I'm going to have to get used to.
It's also on less of a grid than like the 2D games. Mm-hmm. Everything's at a little bit of an angle, and that's kind of cool. Definitely a lot more of a believable town.
All right. So as it said, these whips are pretty cool. They can hit multiple enemies at once, and so it's always something I like to pick up casually early on as an easy thing to get. I was not an experienced speedrunner back then, so I didn't know that you could just get to Portoga in like 25 minutes.
So here's another thing I'm wondering before you leave here. Can you Chimera Wing from inside of a building?
I was also thinking that. I was about to use it downstairs.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to buy a couple and just try and fling around a couple here, because I think I only have one left. And I'm going to want more anyway, so let's take a look.
They're an incredibly valuable speedrunning tool.
Yeah. I think that was one of the first things that really, like, for whatever reason, got me really excited. The first time I saw the DQ3 speedrun was winging out of Reeve to go to Reeve.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on here? We're saving 2 seconds. Oh, I get it. But we spent 25 gold when we barely have any to do it. It's like, all right, I get it. That's what this is. All right, so... Oh, I gave them to my hero, didn't I? Or what did I do with them? Did I not buy them? Well, whatever. Well, I was able to get out of there.
Okay. That's good. In most Dragon Quest games after this, you're not allowed to wing from inside of a building or under something. You'll bonk your head and the wing will be refunded and try again.
Won't actually do anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's one of my favorite niche interactions that not everybody know about, just bonking off the wing. I didn't realize they gave it back to you, though. I thought you got hard punished for being silly.
You think it depends on which game
Maybe
you're
some
playing.
games do
I feel like some of them
usually
take your
it gives it
MP
back.
when you cast return, for instance.
But,
yeah. Yeah, we're gonna bomb this here. I seem to remember there being statues in front of the wall here in the
room that's
so this
laid out a little
cool.
bit differently.
It's definitely laid out a little differently, but it also definitely feels familiar too. So. Cool little effect there.
The path is clear. Oh, and you might...
That's not an option. He's just like, no, here, take it.
It's interesting because you had a map in your key item inventory from the start of the game. So it's interesting that he gave you...
Yeah, I think it was just like a region map. It looks like there's the areas themselves might have different region maps, I think, is what it looks like. He said, actually, he said we've gone to an entirely new world, but this world looks kind of familiar.
I mean, you're right. Like, you could almost imagine, that Africa over on the left.
I wonder if we'll see any familiar kind of things, if that's going to be something that happens. Or no, obviously we're being a little facetious here. The world of Dragon Quest III is laid out to be geographically similar to our world, our real world, Earth. And there's landmarks and cities that are kind of in reference to or analogs to real places. We're heading to Romeria, which is in what would be Italy. It's basically like Rome, and they have a Colosseum and a king who seems more interested in having fun than being a king. And you go to Jipang, which is basically like Japan, and they have a thing with the story being about Yamata no Orochi, which is a part of Shinto mythology, right? And all these different like real world analogies to these places and stuff like that. So that's really cool and interesting. I hadn't said something about it earlier. We haven't seen any strong instances of regional dialects. It's something that the text does in Dragon Quest games, newer Dragon Quest localizations. They oftentimes do like these regional dialects for different areas, and it's a very divisive kind of thing in our community. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm kind of the opinion where if it detracts from how easy it is to read it, then it's not great. When I have to read this out loud in my best Scottish brogue to get an idea of what they're actually saying, that's not the most friendly thing. In this case, for Dragon Quest III, this is the one instance where I could be like, okay, it actually makes perfect sense, right? Because they're actually based off of regions right? That's my own personal opinion on it. Everyone is free to have their own.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I definitely prefer the classic, like more straight medieval fantasy style writing of the older before Dragon Quest VIII games. But I think there's just a huge variety in terms of, I don't mind like the accented voice lines in, for example, Dragon Quest XI. I think those are great. But sometimes the text, as Diener said, can be hard to read in extreme cases. Like Dragon Quest IV DS is a good example of very, very strong accenting. So, but this game seems great so far in terms of that. Like, seems like a pretty standard dialect. One thing I'm noticing here is that these anteaters are attacking different party members.
They all ganged up on my hero to start, so I thought they were going to behave the same, but no, these things are just really, really strong. And there are 5 of them, so okay.
So in other versions of this game, those monsters, those demon anteaters, will focus down. They will all focus the same target. And if that target dies, they'll pick a new one and they'll focus that target. So looking at enemy AI is something that we are definitely keeping an eye out for.
Yeah, I'm also paying attention to some of that, yeah. As the behavior of enemies is going to impact how we...
Another thing which I haven't paid attention to yet, how much magic Diener's been using, but I'm interested in spell retargeting. If you cast a spell on something and then a physical attack kills it before the spell casts, does the spell do nothing and consume your MP? Does the spell retarget as a spell? Does the spell retarget as a physical attack? I'm assuming it's going to retarget as a spell to another monster, because that's how the newer games work. But in the original version, the spell would just do nothing. So
yeah, I was also kind of like subtly trying to see if I could get that to happen. I've been trying to pay attention to that exact scenario you're talking about. I was kind of assuming it would retarget as well, because like you said, that's just kind of what feels like should happen. Oh, this puzzle's no fun if you have a map.
Yeah.
In the original versions, there's 3 different paths, and because you can only see so much on the screen, you wouldn't be able to tell which one leads where. We always know to go to the left, of course, because we've played this game before a couple of times. But at this point, since we got beat up by those anteaters, I'm just trying to get out of here in at least one piece, but this could get a little bit... Okay. It looks like it's auto-saving after pretty much every battle, too, so...
Yeah. That's maybe a little bit much. but it's nice in the sense that like there have been a couple games that have come out in recent years that have been, you know, a little bit crashy or something like that, unstable, especially on release.
Yeah, not losing any progress is definitely nice. That can kill your momentum playing an RPG for sure.
Yep.
On the other hand, it does mean that if I get away from a battle, but I lose some forces, then, oh, this is new, then I will autosave with dead people, right? So.
Right. We're slurping.
Wait! Don't do anything silly now!
So this looks like a new mechanic, I think.
I bet this is related to the monster wrangler.
You might just be the one. Don't worry, friend. Tell me, have you encountered any unusually monsters on your travels?
They've all been trying to kill me so far.
No ill will towards us human folk. This slime being a convenient example of said phenomenon. Ho ho ho! Look at any rate. Oh, that's right. Though I'm sure you probably pegged who I am. Yes,
indeed.
The one and only Monty.
You do know me, right?
Yeah.
Good to hear word of my work has travelled far. Listen, would you mind, should you happen to find any friendly... I don't have much, but I'm sure... As it happens, there's a monster arena in the nearby town of Romaria. There, creatures of a calmer persuasion test their might against one another.
It's a small thing to note that it's called Romaria.
The time, you'll likely find me there as well.
Yeah, which is definitely very, very close. The most accurate translation from the original Japanese, Romaria.
Yeah, so
sometimes to settle. Okay.
This text play.
Okay. So yeah, this has to do with the monster recruitment. It looks like the monster arena thing in Romilly is like its own separate like mini game thing here.
Yeah, it looks like it. And in the classic versions, it's just like a gambling arena.
Mm-hmm. So if that's like a more fleshed out like Dragon Quest VIII monster battling arena thing, that could definitely be interesting.
Yeah,
I had some fun with that.
So the monster wrangling is interesting because in some games like Dragon Quest V or Dragon Quest VI, monster recruitment is as you defeat enemies in battle, there's a chance that one of them will stand up and say, you know, you're really powerful, I want to join your party. But in the, for example, the DS version of Dragon Quest VI, so I'm talking about the Super Famicom, in the DS version of Dragon Quest VI, that was changed, and there were specifically slime enemies. There were a bunch of slime enemies in towns throughout the world who you could talk to, and they would join your party if you had a monster tamer. And you could get some, for example, like a really powerful King Cure slime with Revive. It's one of the best ways to get Revive in Dragon Quest VI DS. So, yeah, this seems like it's going to be using more of that style of mechanic where you find specific monsters in towns that will join you rather than just any monster that you encounter in the world.
Yeah, with the text speed turned all the way up to the fastest setting, these menus are extremely responsive, so it's almost like too fast, right?
Sure.
But it is going to mean that as speedrunners, like, especially like when we know what we want to do, we'll be able to do it really fast. There's not going to be a lot of time to, you know, have to wait or anything like that, which means there's even more like depth for how to optimize those menus and how to execute them as fast as possible, or more a higher skill ceiling for executing all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe it's just my own personal opinion. I think that's one of the cool and interesting, enduring things about Dragon Quest III speedrun. We talked about it, is how clean and fun the menuing actually feels.
It's also something where, obviously, you know, we don't have rules defined for a speedrun for this game yet or anything, but in most of the newer Dragon Quest games, we allow turbo. And turboing very responsive menus can be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And do a lot of accidental inputs or use accidental items.
You must be the hero of Alia.
It is now that despicable brigand Robin Hood.
Okay. Yeah, he's
So-
going telling me the crown has been stolen. Whatever. We might go deal with that.
Yeah.
Probably. Oh, I never did anything with that whip. We went all through all that trouble to get it, and I didn't even.
One other thing I noticed, if I'm not mistaken, were you able to save at priests?
Yes.
So that's also new.
Oh, you're right. I didn't even think about that. I'm used to Dragon Warrior 4 and all the other games, but yeah, the older games from Dragon Warrior 3 and earlier, you had to talk to kings. But yeah, this says a confession save thing here. I saved my game earlier with like not even consciously. I guess I didn't, but I opened the menu. But we'll go ahead and save it just in case.
Yeah. So in older DQ3, like Diener said, it's kings. It's the king of Aliahan. It's king of Romilly. It's the queen of Isis. There's a few specific NPCs, and then there's a couple others. Like there's a person at Dharma, or there's like a maid type lady in the tavern in Aliahan. There's a couple other NPCs that will let you save, but you can't just save at any church, which is a little bit of a limiting thing in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool. I like that change. I think it's a good one.
Oops. Oops. So you want the rabbit tail. It looks like you're allowed to equip 2 accessories as well. I wonder, oh, it says main and sub? Oh, I wonder if, I was just about to say, I wonder if, like, what happens if you have multiple personality accessories? I wonder if you get your personality only from main accessory first or something. I wonder about that.
Oh.
There's 2 spots. So I wonder what that's all about.
Interesting.
They definitely seem to recall. Yeah, so some of these items are going to change the personality type. So we're no longer free spirit, but this slugger personality, whatever that means. All right, well, I don't need to upgrade weapons for my mage. Okay.
Yeah. I think our plan here probably is going to be, let's continue on towards the Kandar 1 the normal way. So in the speed run, we would take a little bit of a detour here, and we would go east to the town of Asalam, and then head towards the magic pyramid to get the magic key early, which would allow for getting a lot of extra money early on and getting really strong equipment. But
yeah, by progressing the game forward, we can get to later towns like Portoga much quicker than usual. And what's really nice about that is they sell weapons and armor that are really powerful compared to what we would.
Then it is as I thought. We recently received a letter of. I had hoped for some help tracking down as a result of the outpost that leads to Port.
Yeah, okay, I got it. So it looks like if I'm kind of understanding the objectives a little bit, it's probably going to add objectives as we talk to people and unlock them. So I was kind of curious about, like, when we get the boat, what's the objective going to be? There's probably going to be like NPCs with exclamation marks above their heads to give people hints about what to do. This is an old classic RPG from the NES Famicom days that the storytelling is a little minimalist and the clues are sometimes a little bit vague and not always the most informative. So I think for an older game like this, giving a little bit more, let's say, oh, cool.
it's interesting that it's highlighting and aiming your objective towards Portoga, though, considering normally that's locked by the magic key.
Full moving. So little things like this seem really interesting to me for someone who's played the game a lot. There's parts of the world map that you don't really need to go to. So I wonder if they stuck some interesting, unique, fun things to find there.
One thing I was saying, this is obviously way later in the game, that I've been interested in is the I don't know what you call it, the pool, the lake that you can like your weapon can fall into, and then the fairy comes out and says, "Oh, it's this weapon you dropped." It's something a lot of people don't even know about or find because it's kind of just it's on the eastmost continent on like the northwestern corner. There's just like an unmarked tile that you have to walk into to enter that area, and it doesn't really have a purpose. But I'm curious if there'll be something more to it in this game.
Did that attack twice?
Might have.
I swear that thing attacked me twice. How rude.
That's very strong for this part of the game then.
Is it just my imagination? No, he definitely attacked me twice. Yo, the classic double hit, double physical. Shout outs to any fans of the double physical.
Yeah, but I'm more of a fan of the double physical on the bat character.
Too soon.
Since you guys were mentioning the pyramid, it got me thinking it would be very interesting if there's like dungeons you dip by that you could just step in and step out, since you can get the wing warps on it. It'd be a really interesting routing deviation between this and the earlier versions of the game.
Yeah, I was definitely kind of thinking the same thing at first of, I wonder if there's some opportunities where you can grab these points and maybe go somewhere and come back, or like I said, when we need to get to some other destination, if there isn't maybe a little bit of a shorter path.
The big one I'm thinking of is getting to where you use the lovely memories later on in the game, or get to the earliest way of getting to the world tree. Normally we have to go to No Annuals and sail like all the way around the continent, but maybe you could return to like the final key shrine, or something like that, and maybe end up a little closer.
And foolish about how much stuff I brought with me. I did not actually buy those wings, and I wanted them, and we died, so I'm gonna head back and I can't enter the town from the bottom. I guess that makes sense.
It's interesting.
Oh, I like that little percussion note there. I don't know if it's a marimba or a low xylophone. I like that. Oops, that's actually save.
Always save.
It does mean that revive is not the first option. This is Dragon Quest II all over again.
Yep.
Didn't really mention it too much, but this game does have a day-night cycle. It's one of the first RPGs I can think of like this that had a day-night cycle. It's pretty easy to like manipulate and change in certain ways in the older games, so I'm kind of just curious about a few things about how that's going to look and feel.
You get the little lighting here, you're carrying around the lantern that casts a little glow. That's pretty cool.
Of course, the NPCs have different dialogue, and sometimes there are cases where you can only get to certain areas of the town during day or night, respectively. Some extra clues you only get at night, things like that. So,
yep. And of course, the music is different at night too.
Mm-hmm. That's obviously what first made me think of it, the different soundtrack, because I like that sound. We want, I don't know, 4 of these. Well, there's always room in your bag. Okay. All right, now something very important I need to try and find. So the next thing towards the town we're headed towards, there should be something there might be something along the way that I'm interested in. Oops. For some reason I thought I could...
Yep.
You understand, right?
I do understand. Yeah, you're not crazy.
That's really hard for me to explain verbally what I just did there, but It's the same thing of trying to enter the town from the top side. I can't do that. It's also a habit I'm encounter canceling. I don't even know if that's a thing that does anything in this game, but
and that was my big a big issue I have with Dragon Warrior 7. It's like there are a lot of times that when you exit an area, it puts you like immediately below re-entering the same area, and like you always have to walk to the other side. Like you're walking around the town
or the pedestal again or whatever.
But in the normal version of this game, when you leave an area, you're kind of sitting on top of it. It doesn't matter which exit you use or anything like that. So it's easy to just like walk out and then just keep moving forward. So you go into an area, you press down to leave it, and then you press up to keep moving on. And that same set of inputs doesn't work here.
The only point of HP that matters is the last one. These enemies definitely seem a little bit tougher. Maybe it's not part of it's because I'm not loaded up with supremely strong gear. Like, oops, let's spell this out. Sap. That's sap. Wizard with only 24 hit points is not very much, but mages are not known for their most durable, kind of thing. So, all right. Fair enough.
I'm assuming on the overworld, you're not able to, I wouldn't expect this at all. You're not able to, rotate the camera or anything, are you?
I haven't tried too much with, messing with the camera. You're right.
I noticed this section here, it's kind of going upright, and you can't see very far in that direction. But if you could rotate the camera, I'm not expecting it in this HD-2D style, but it would be neat if it were a thing.
Oh, a whip can critical hit. That's new.
Oh.
Defending, so it's not gonna get hurt here. Helping himself, but okay.
I am enjoying most of the enemy sprites and enemy animations too. Like those caterpillars looked great.
Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't look like, at least the right stick is not rotating the camera. I didn't even think about it. Playing an old school Dragon Quest game like this, my brain is assuming that the camera is locked in that traditional kind of position all the time, I guess.
I'm also not seeing what you're looking for here.
No, I'm not either. That's okay, I guess.
It still might be elsewhere. So
it's going to be my first wish from the Divine Dragon.
Yeah. So the area where we are now is where the first Pachisi track would appear. And it seems like maybe that's kind of replaced with either that little walkthrough path that we went through, or else the secret area that Diener found. From a speedrunning standpoint, if encounter canceling does work, so I'll just quickly explain encounter canceling is whenever you leave an area, that's when it determines how long it'll be until your next encounter. And so you can enter and relieve an area to reset that. That was a longer walk between that secret area and this town. And so the overworld sizing is a little bit different. The number of random encounters that you're going to get in these areas will be a little bit different. And just subtle world map changes like that can have a pretty big impact on a speedrun, either from a time standpoint or a risk reward standpoint or whatever else.
I remember this scene in the original. He's talking about, oh, this great fighter is here, and he fought this bear with his bare hands. And you meet his ghost at night, and he says, the rumors about me aren't true. I use the iron claws, or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's actually really funny.
So here's a question. I don't know if you've taken it in yet, and if you did, I didn't pay attention. Is there a rest until night option in this game? Because a lot of newer Dragon Quest games give you an option to rest until night.
Yeah, I saw that it gave me different options when it was night. So, yeah, I think it does. So we can take a look real quick. Since my characters have been healing in between levels, it hasn't been the case where...
Yeah, where you've needed to use it.
Oh, okay.
Slurp.
It's our friend. You can always count on him to do his job. It's Healy.
Human.
Just wants to be a human. A little bit of money. Okay. Casually, I'm definitely gonna take my time and
check
uncover
every pot,
every
everything.
barrel, every rock.
Yep, for sure.
Just checking a few specific things here and there, but stay overnight, rest a while. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can pick from a bunch of different options here. So, yeah, you definitely get can change that however you want.
Yeah, that's awesome good for the speedrun. Potentially.
It's not too often that we need to manipulate day-night, and later on in the run when we do, we can frequently do so with the darkness lamp. But I'm also not sure if just using a Chimera Wing is going to reset day-night. That's always something I thought was a little strange.
For sure.
So this is where we would head towards the Kandar thing, which is what we'll try to do for now.
Yeah, so the king of Romaria earlier mentioned that there were some brigands that had stolen his crown and then run off, and they're in Champagne Tower, which is over here to the west, and that's the Kandar that Diener just mentioned. So we're gonna check out. I think this. I'm not sure how this party is gonna be for beating up Kandar, but we'll get plenty of XP along the way. That tower's got some pretty good enemies to fight.
Also haven't been taking much time to level up or buy better equipment. I've just kind of been going for it, which, especially if the balance is anywhere close to a classic Dragon Quest game like this, then that's not exactly the easiest or safest way of playing the game like this. But at the same time, I do kind of like to press things forward a little bit. Speedrunning has taught me that about myself. I like to make it a little bit more intriguing, a little bit more challenging sometimes, within reason. But also too trying to show off some different parts of the game to you all.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, a bunch of stuff. I wonder if there is a... Yes, there is an auto-equip option. Not the easiest way to do quickly on a bunch of characters, but okay. Just kind of curious.
Yeah, I was wondering if that existed or not.
We have these little fireflies here at night. This is quite pretty.
That's cool. The water looks pretty good too.
Crabber-dabber-doo here.
Crabber-dabber-doo's the green one.
Oh, sorry. Oh, there's the crit. These things hit really hard.
And you don't.
No. Not at all, actually.
Ouch.
Was it just saying about my party not being very strong for a game like this?
Yeah, for sure. And Dragon Quest notoriously, another thing I'll be interested to see, notoriously does not give you revival items until very late in the game, and you get a very minimal number of them. Unlike a Final Fantasy game where you might be able to just easily buy Phoenix Downs or something like that, that's not the case in DQ. So in this game, you wouldn't, even in like a speedrun, you wouldn't get your first revival item until the earliest, like an hour and 50 minutes, something like that, hour and 40 minutes, somewhere in that ballpark, if you went a little out of your way.
So obviously one advantage of this new system is that I can come to this tower and then come back and then really quickly get back to where I want to be.
I was wondering why you weren't just winging back right away, and then I'd already forgotten about that mechanic.
Mm-hmm. I was like, well, if I make some progress, it's good. Although this Kazov entrance being on the south side is no longer making this the right place to go when you want to revive. I can already tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
As speedrunners, when we got to accomplish certain things, reviving, staying in inns, things like that, we have specific towns we go to because they're the fastest ones to accomplish those things. In the older games, you'd come in, enter Kazov from this entrance, and the church is right here. So this was frequently a destination to revive when things went wrong. And with the church being in the back corner like that, not so much. So we'll have to rethink where we're going for some of these things. And hopefully we just don't die in the first place. Oh, interesting. Sorry. Is it just me, or can you enter from different directions and it tells which direction you came in from? Oh, yes, that absolutely does.
That's cool.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Because the fastest way is actually probably from the other side.
West, yeah. Could also be a case that maybe they've added, treasure chests or something like that on these alternate paths to make them incentivized. Sure, when I play this casually, I will be scouring every floor looking for things like that.
So yeah, different monsters are going to take more damage, which is definitely not traditional from how older Dragon War, or even...
It also seemed to mention that the AI will learn monster weaknesses. It's not a fun encounter to get ambushed by.
Nothing is going to be fun getting ambushed by here. My party is not powerful enough for sure. Oh, he's asleep. That's fun.
So normally we come into this dungeon in a speedrun with a couple of strong chain whips and some iron armor, and
couple
this
more
goes a little bit better.
Of gear upgrades. These enemies also just overall seem like they just hit harder across the board. Maybe it's just my imagination. Maybe it's the fact that my armor is particularly bad. The heal retargeted to my cleric at least. But this obviously is not going to go super well. So on one hand, it is nice that they're giving you a little bit more guidance and direction in terms of like where you can go next. But it also seems that if you're heading straight to these places and you don't know what you're doing, it might not go super well. So there's definitely some things we'll have to think about a little differently.
The health refill along the way also kind of encourages, casually at least, taking your time with areas, taking a couple extra fights, you'll level up, you'll get your health refill anyway. You can kind of keep moving along.
Exactly. This is not what I would think of as being a particularly casual way in which I'm playing the game right now. I'm definitely trying to advance things a little bit quicker than I would, and think that a player should. Maybe this cleric can get all the way up to the top and fight Kandar by herself. You think that's a good idea?
Yeah, what could go wrong? Maybe you'll just dazzle him and he'll always miss.
Or maybe I'll get hit by something that does 37 damage.
Oof. The another thing that I haven't really paid attention when you've run a couple times is in earlier versions of this game, if you fail to run, not every enemy is guaranteed to act. So I'm curious if that's the case here, or if you fail to run there, are you always being hit by all 5 or 6 of those enemies?
I think I noticed earlier that I wasn't getting attacked by everything, but how much or oops. I don't have
it also could have been, a fight where things were defending or something like that, depending what the enemy was, and it can be hard to tell sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But your flee success rate seemed pretty decent through there, better than 25%. Maybe. Independent events and all.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. The first flee might seem a little bit better. Again, it's hard for me to tell, but oops.
And some versions definitely use 50% as the first flee, so it's possible.
Fortunately, no Taloons in the party to take use of the Iron Apron. It's probably a good idea I just sell it.
Also, no merchant to praise, like that necklace of immunity. Like, what does that do?
It looked like it said it made me immune to poison.
Oh, okay. It actually had like a description on there.
Gave me a basic description, yeah, but
gotcha.
It's like, well, that's too bad. That's how praise is supposed to be useful, right? And it's not just supposed to get in your way when you're trying to transfer things from Taloon to Christo.
I'm sure praise will still have plenty of cases for cursed equipment and things like that. That would be
No, actually telling you what effects certain items have in battle has always been pretty handy.
Yep.
Just kind of curious. So we didn't take a look.
The merchant's not typically like a very good class in this game. They tend to get they can wear a lot of equipment sometimes, or they might have some high hit points or something along those lines, but they're not usually great. And carrying one around just to appraise things sometimes doesn't feel amazing. So getting some basic descriptions is nice.
Rick.
Big on. Oh boy. Does this game have tension? Probably not. But I wonder.
I don't think my team of slime plus heal slime is particularly robust.
Honky tonky piano song. Classic.
Mm-hmm. That looks cool.
Yeah, I'll be curious to actually see. So it didn't seem like that required having the monster wrangler, right?
Yeah, it seemed like that's something a little different. I don't think you need the monster wrangler to recruit the monsters. I think that works more like what you were talking about. I think how 6DS works, where they're just kind of these things in these static locations that you just go find, right?
But in 6DS, you need the monster tamer job to get them to join.
It didn't seem like I needed that per se. Perhaps the monster wrangler is a little bit more just like a different class that, since now they have a lot of these newer abilities and things to kind of give to.
Yeah, maybe it'll let you use those monsters' abilities as your own in combat, like
breath or the flaming breath.
Yeah,
I know that some of the other abilities, like the monster tamer class, would have those kinds of things.
Yeah, so it could end up like a blue mage almost. Yeah, could be like that.
I'm heading back on foot just to try and fight some stuff. I imagine I'll just go to the tower and get killed again. So I think I'll explore a couple other places and see what happens. So, not that I'm expecting things to go particularly swimmingly, but now see, we died again to caterpillars.
Man, these things really hurt.
Yeah, things, at least in my initial reaction, initial opinion so far, they hit a lot harder than what I think I'm used to. Part of it might be because my equipment is legitimately not very good, armor-wise especially. I'm neglecting. That's my speedrunning instinct for Dragon Quest speedrunning. It's like, armor? What's armor good for?
Yeah, also, what have revival costs been like? I haven't been paying attention when you've been reviving.
I didn't either. I assumed it was the same, because I feel like that's been a formula that they've been using for a long time.
Yeah, there have definitely been some games that have deviated from it, but typically the formula is level squared, rounded up. So 10 gold into level 3, and then 20 gold, then 30 gold. Then...
So by that math, reviving you here should cost gold when we go do that.
Right.
I'm still seeing the venom worms all the way up to here. So the encounter lines themselves, the zones are definitely different. And we've definitely seen multiple instances of the encounters themselves being different within the zones. So there's a lot of different stuff there. So these look familiar.
Little cat flies. Not cat bats at Shadow Killer. Those are the later ones.
Kato Bato.
One of the nicer enemies to honestly find here in the speedrun, because they spend a lot of their turns casting Stop Spell.
In SFC version, yeah. That one attacked me. Not only did it attack me, it attacked me twice. So yeah, there are a lot of monsters that are not only seeming to do more damage, but are also more aggressive too.
One thing I'll say about this overworld is I wish the path that you're following here was a little bit more distinct. It's like very narrow and faded.
I'm actually
it's visible,
can see it clearer on the mini map than on the.
Yeah.
Oh, I just had a thought. Since we realized entering the tower,
can you enter Kazal?
Can you enter from the west? So you had the exact same thought I did. Nope. So we said it's probably
40,
60 gold. Okay, so that looks like level times 10.
Okay.
Or it might be, maybe it's slightly different.
Level times 10 could be right. I mean, better than DQ2's level times 20.
Level times 20 is so painful early game. Nope, I found the goodie bag.
Oh,
but it ran away.
I think it said that some things
you have to
run away and use
different items. And oh, here's the musk. So that probably is something about it. All the different weapon stores. And nobody who sells medical herbs.
Do they?
Nope.
Nope.
Again, more small details that I only know because I'm a speedrunner about random things, random shops that don't sell specific items. Oh yeah, the church is over here.
This town is really interesting because, like, everybody, it's a town of never do goods. You know, like there's merchants trying to rip you off and selling weird things, and it's an interesting town.
Okay. So we managed to wander our way out this far. It wasn't too bad.
Oh. I mean, you're not really seeming to get more encounters than normal in most of these walks, even though they look pretty long. The encounter rate seems manageable.
Yeah. So far. This is something more akin to what we might try to do in a speedrun, and I have zero idea how this would work, and I'm not exactly hopeful that it's going to work at all. But
no, this is going to be a disaster, but it's going to be fun.
If the run rate's this good, we'll be fine.
Check the sign. It's too late now.
Yeah, I'm not going back.
No. I was wondering because normally there's also a Pachisi track near here, and I was curious if it would give you an indication of that. Yeah.
Here he is.
There he is. Crabber dabber dude.
Well, he can still crit me. That thing hits for 50 damage.
Well,
all right, so what happens when we load the autosave?
Okay. So, yeah.
Okay. Mostly just getting a feel for how that kind of works. Hey, nice dodge.
You got this encounter at around the same spot, but it was a different encounter.
So it won't be that simple to modify or manipulate some of the RNG, right?
Right. But it does mean that walking anywhere can be as safe as you want it to be.
Eventually, yeah. I like this model. This looks really cool.
Here's another question. If you could check this when you get into a combat next, even if you don't do it, can you target yourself or your party members in combat in this version?
Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't actually think to check anything like that.
In most of the modern games, you can't, but it's sometimes useful if you get confused, for example, or if you want to quickly death warp or something like that. Pyramid looks interesting.
Quite a bit different visually, aesthetically. The layout of everything seems mostly the same, but
don't fall.
I think I like how it overall looks.
Yeah, it's really cool. I also love the pyramid music. It's one of my favorite themes in this game.
This is a huge encounter, though.
Oh man, it sure is.
The enemies in this zone tend to be extremely powerful when we're doing the speedrun, and with the encounters being overall on average bigger and more deadly than I've typically seen before, it's even more horrifying for me looking at this that
oh man.
Oh yeah, everyone died in one run fail. Super. I'm not entirely sure if the speedrun's going to end up looking like this in the early game, but it might look like this in the early game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if going here early ends up being as powerful as it is in Super Famicom, it's hard to imagine it not being this.
Yeah.
Getting this magic key earlier allows you to access treasuries in multiple castle towns, treasury in Isis, treasury in Aliahan, that both have very valuable equipment and money and seeds. And it also lets you get to Portoga, as Diener mentioned earlier, which has shops with items you wouldn't normally be able to buy. You really can unlock a lot of things early by coming here.
Yeah, and as silly as it might seem for us to have a strategy where we come in here and die and load auto saves a bunch of times, it probably will in theory be like less awkward than how we end up doing in an SFC sometimes.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, that part in that speedrun takes about 20 minutes to do this pyramid walk thing that we describe. And if you're competing for a very competitive time in this game, it's a very big reset point. And you'll play the first 20 minutes, sometimes multiple times before you can even play anything else in this game. And it's not always the most exciting. So,
All right. See the puzzle.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Try the rightmost one.
Okay.
Because I think the NES version is like that. It's just 2. It's 4-1 rather than 3-2-1-4. Let's see if it's going for that version, or maybe the Game Boy Color.
I'm pretty sure GBC is the same as SFC.
I think you're right.
That encounter came very quick after walking up the stairs there. It looks like it still has my... And it doesn't look like it redrew a new number walking up the stairs or whatever, right?
Right.
I'm not sure it's redrawing numbers in between loading sequences or things like that.
Although half-step encounters do sadly exist.
They do exist. Okay, so that one worked.
Okay, now try the leftmost one.
The leftmost one.
Yeah.
It's been a very long time since I played the NES version, so that having a different solution to the puzzle, I can believe I don't remember it at all. Okay. Then that's it.
Yep.
It did say that it sounded like the door opened.
Assuming we survive.
Oh, there's a monster here. Am I gonna have to fight something?
Huh.
This radically changes things if that's the case. This clearly looks like something I have to fight.
For sure. It's like a demon, maybe?
How did you find your way here?
Good question.
You're lost. It hardly matters.
They knew this is what we were going to do.
They sure did.
Today, so I won't make you suffer much.
Oh man.
Yeah,
those enemies are not DQ3 enemies. The Medusa heads. Okay, well, this is really cool.
This is completely unexpected. I did not.
Both cursed and very interesting design. We've seen you do this for like, what, near 2 decades at this point? They're like, no. So fun's over.
Yeah, no, there's no way my party is going to be strong enough to deal with this. These things are crushing me.
I'm curious.
This is actually
about status resistances. Like, can they be expelled or something like that?
I was thinking initially. I was like, oh, I wonder if I should cast expel on these things. So for encounters like this too, it looks like we've got a different option for these boss fights. We can actually just try the battle again. Obviously, this is not going to go
if you
well,
do.
So
Okay, from the beginning. I was going to say, if you do rematch, I was curious if it brings you into the fight or if it drops you just outside the fight.
Like
so that
it drops you right into the fight. So you have no opportunity to like change your equipment or things like that, other than what you had already had ready for you. So yeah, these things are definitely too powerful to be fighting at level 5, level 6, at least with the equipment we have.
For sure.
Might turn into like one of those save scum situations where you gotta like get a status effect so that you can hold them still.
Yeah, there are some times we do kind of some things like that in some other Dragon Quest RTAs. I'm thinking Trap Box and DQ8.
But the fact that there's 3 enemies here that are all different groups means that relying on status effects for this fight would be very difficult. You'd have to still be able to survive a couple of turns.
It also seemed like agility-wise, at least compared to my level, those enemies are much faster than I was too. So hard for me to do a lot there. Well, that's...
You know what? That actually was at like a very perfect time because we've just about reached the 2-hour mark. So is there anything else you wanted to show off or talk about before I release you to your own streams to enjoy this?
I think I'm just going to really quickly head back to Aliahan and look at a couple more of the party mechanic stuff. A few more of the options there, just kind of play around with it for a sec.
Sure.
Other than that, no, I think I got a good taste of this here, and if there's anything else that I think we can try to answer, if there's maybe a couple other comments. I don't really have too much more to say other than I had a great time coming on here and playing, and the game looks and plays really fun. As someone who is an enjoyer of this game classically, there's definitely enough here that is going to be new to me, right? There's going to be enough for me here that I'm like, oh, this isn't just the same thing with a different coat of paint. There's enough here that I'm like, all right, I'm actually really interested in some of this stuff now. I'm really interested in playing my own casual playthrough because I can already tell there's going to be some things that look and feel a little different. I'm wondering if maybe there aren't some boss encounters that aren't going to be guarding some other key quest items that didn't have bosses before, maybe like the Blue Orb or Ra's Mirror or other quest items like that. But overall, so far so good. I'd say I think it looks and plays fantastically. These menus are super responsive, and I'm excited to dig into all of the new stuff.
Yeah, and I think I've got similar thoughts from watching this. Is that so coming into this, my people have been asking me for months, obviously, how excited I am for this game, and my response has always been a little bit, reserved. I love DQ3. I think it's an awesome game, but I think we already have awesome versions of DQ3, and I didn't want to just play the same game with a fresh coat of paint necessarily. I think that seeing the way the menus are and how responsive the game seems to play, and it moves quickly. Some of the trailers they showed early on, the movement looked a little slow. Seeing all of that is completely eased a lot of the concerns that I've had about how this game would feel to play as a speedrun. Not that I'm committing to speedrunning it or anything, but it looks a lot more fun to play than I expected. And also seeing what just happened in the pyramid, different puzzle, boss, boom. Now I'm excited to play this.
Yeah, no, it might seem a little strange that oh wait, there's a boss here. That really changes a lot with how every runner might approach that particular problem. And I think every player of this game who doesn't already know that is going to hit that point and go, oh wait, there's a boss here, right? And be really kind of surprised by that. So that's one thing in particular that I'm actually really glad we went there and saw that. That was really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad we managed to make it all the way over there. Well, thank you both for showcasing this. I'm glad that we were able to get some people from the Dragon Quest community that are a lot more familiar with the game, so that everybody could get a little bit more of a nuanced take and some experience with the final product, a little bit more in line with what experienced players will give. Thank you guys both for your time. I very much appreciate it, especially considering you took your days off for both of you. And that will be it for us. Thanks everybody for watching, and have a good one.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.